What's happening? Will Freeman, RevolutionaryLifestyleDesign.com, coming at you today to talk about how to win friends and influence people. This is one of the best books ever written by Dale Carnegie, one of the most useful books ever written. And I want to break down for you exactly how the book looks, what you can take away from it, and actually how to win friends and influence people. There is no better book written on the art of persuasion and on the art of getting people to like you. And it's as relevant and classic today as it was when it was written in 1937. But before I get into that, I want to get into how to understand people and how to understand yourself in social interactions, okay? And this is very important if you want to be able to influence people and win friends and use the techniques from the books. You have to understand what's going on behind the social interaction and what's actually going on beneath the surface, okay? So the way that you understand people is four things. Everyone acts in their own self-interest at all times, despite what they may say. It's in everyone's self-interest to feel pleasure at all times and avoid pain at all times. Everyone wants to feel the highest pleasure, which is like a loving state of ecstatic bliss, if that's possible. And everyone wants to avoid pain at all times, okay? So the thing is, life is painful. As the Buddha says, existence is suffering, with enlightenment being the ultimate pleasure or permanent bliss, or what the Hindus call Satchitananda. In devotional religions, this is communion with God, and it's the permanent removal of pain. It's what everyone's chasing, that pure bliss state and that permanent removal of pain. Whether you believe that's possible or not, doesn't negate the fact that everyone would love to be in ecstasy and bliss all the time and never have any pain or suffering, okay? And anyone who says otherwise is completely unaware of what motivates themselves and what motivates other people, okay? If everyone could take a pill that had you feeling ecstatic bliss 24/7, the crime, pain, suffering, hurting others, every negative thing about human experience would be gone in an instant, all right, with that pill. And people would be walking down the streets, hugging each other in ecstasy, and we would all work together, and, there would be no indentured servitude. There would be no, any of those negative human things that we have. There'd be no need for money or private property because everyone would be in bliss all the time and would be happy to share with each other. Unfortunately, we don't have that pill. We have the world that we have, and it's a world where most people don't understand what I just said. They don't understand themselves, and they definitely don't understand other people, okay? To understand yourself and understand other people, and I know that I harp on you guys on this a lot in a lot of videos, is that you're either going towards pleasure or avoiding pain. And the majority of your day is spent sleeping, working, grooming, eating. All of those basic human actions are just to avoid the pain of not grooming or never sleeping or not working or not eating. Like the bulk of your day is just spent avoiding pain, okay? The rest of your day is spent trying to chase pleasure, whether it's reading or having sex or eating ice cream or going out with your friends or drinking alcohol or seeing your loved ones or listening to music. The free time you have outside of avoiding pain is going towards chasing pleasure, okay? So let me state that again. Everyone acts in their interest at all times, and that's to feel as much pleasure as possible and avoid as much pain as possible. And I'm not talking about the Ayn Rand rational self-interest or whatever bullshit she was on, which assumes it's a choice, okay? I'm saying it's not self-interest. You are selfish, and it's not a choice. This is a fact. This is not, I'm teaching you to choose to be selfish. I'm saying everyone is selfish no matter what. You can't not be selfish unless you're unconscious or you're dead. You're either chasing pleasure, avoiding pain, even if you're doing something nice for someone, right? There's still a payoff in that it makes you happy to do, okay? And you don't have a choice. This is in your biology. Every cell in your biology, in your body, is designed over billions of years of evolution and to survive and replicate, all right? Number one, purpose, survive. Number two, purpose, replicate, okay? And you're rewarded with pleasure for all the actions that accomplish this goal, right? So eating, sleeping, grooming, shelter, survival levels down, and then replication, which is, dressing well, meeting women, having sex, all those things make you feel good. A lot of the reason we chase money is replication. Okay, so this is, you really are a selfish organism, whether you want to believe it or not. Okay, and you might be thinking, well, what about all those people who deliberately cause themselves pain? All right, the problem is that they don't, not that they don't want to be happy, it's that their wants aren't aligned with their happiness. Okay, so the heroin junkie lives in hell, and he doesn't see any consistent happiness in the future, and he chases the one thing that can give him pleasure, that heroin, despite the fact that it puts him on the streets and is keeping him there. And despite the fact that it ruined his life, he's still chasing that pleasure because then it becomes the only thing that he has. Okay, so this is just a person who has badly aligned his wants with his need, with his happiness. So he wants heroin, but the heroin doesn't actually make him happy. It destroys his happiness. It gives him a short-term pleasure, but it destroys the rest of his life. Okay, compare that to the happy, well-adjusted person with loving relationships and rewarding work, who is smart about their happiness. That's really the only difference between the heroin addict and the happy, well-adjusted person. Is the heroin addict is really dumb at making himself consistently happy, whereas the happy, well-adjusted person is just good at it. With that said, even though the happy person might spend a lot of their life helping other people, they're just as selfish as the heroin addict. They just get high off of a different thing. They get high off of helping people, but they're still getting a payoff in terms of self-respect, in terms of feeling like a good person, in terms of making someone else happy. There is no way around that. Okay, even when you do things for other people to make them happy, it's because it makes you happy. And I can't express that truth to you enough. I know I've said it in a lot of other videos, but I wanted to recap that for you because it's so important to understand when you're talking about any type of social interaction or sales or anything like that. You have to understand that everyone's coming from the point of self-interest. And if you have the idea of, oh, people are superficial or people are selfish or people are this and that, and anyone who has those types of thoughts or says those things does not understand reality at all. Okay, you really, really have to drill this into your head that everyone acts in their self-interest all the time. They can't not act any differently. Okay, you cannot not chase pleasure, and you cannot not try and avoid pain. All right, so this is what we know. Everyone acts in their own self-interest at all times, and everyone wants to feel good at all times. So the logical conclusion is, if you want to win friends and influence people, you add value, which is giving in to their self-interest, and you make them feel good. That's simple. Add value, make them feel good. And the more people you add value to and the more people you make feel good, the more friends you get, the more clients you get, the more people you get to do what you want, the more women you have in your life, the more everything, okay? And so in turn, by adding value, making people feel good, they want to add value back to you and make you feel good. So you create this positive feedback loop, which also creates a better reality for yourself and for the people around you. Sounds like a nice way to live, right? The question is, why do most people not do that? Why are most social interactions strained? Why is there so much tension? Why is there so much conflict in the world? Okay, 4 reasons that I've devised. There's 4 main reasons why people don't act that way. The first one is lack of awareness. Okay, so they either don't have the self-awareness or the social awareness, or it's a combination of both. You'll see this in a lot of autistic or Asperger's people. They just can't understand social cues. But you also see this in a large part of the general population. If you're autistic or you have Asperger's, they at least have an excuse in my book if they have some type of developmental problem. But with regular people, the lack of awareness just comes from a lack of focus. And the lack of focus comes from not having social skills, and really it's because they don't have it as a priority, right? If you don't have winning friends and influencing people as a priority, then you're not going to focus on the social skills and social interactions and the social cues because you don't care about it enough, right? You don't care about it enough to actually make it a priority, and therefore you walk around in a lack of awareness and you make social mistakes all the time. I see this all the time. Number 2 is aggression. So some guys think that outright dominance in social situations is the best move. And it is effective if you're the most popular guy in high school and you're a bigger guy, or you are just a big, intimidating, tough guy, or you are a manager at work where you have position, right, where you have a corporate structure that enforces your position, then you can influence people by aggression, which is really intimidation. And a lot of the time, this tends to get you into arguments and stuff like that. You can influence people, definitely. Okay, especially if you're a criminal and you use guns and things like that, definitely can. But again, this is not a great way to influence people over the long term, assuming, and it's also not a good way to make friends over the long term. So really, if you're able to make friends this way, the friends that you have will probably be scared of you. They'll 50% of be in a relationship with you because they're afraid of disappointing you or something like that. But they generally will not be good long-term friends. You're also going to get a lot of people that betray you because they don't like you and they are waiting for you to fall and they secretly enjoy when you fall. And you might get some short-term victories, but it's really counterproductive in the long run. Okay, like I said, you can get away with a lot of aggression when you have position. Okay, and by position I mean you have position in the social hierarchy. So you're the quarterback in high school, or you're the boss at work. You can get away with a lot of nasty behavior, but it's really not necessary, and it's actually counterproductive. Like, you could still be a leader at work without the aggression and get way better results, way better results. And people aren't going to quit. You're not going to have to fire as many people. You're not going to have as many conflicts, right? And the aggression overall is just it's not a good long game, and it causes a lot of bounce back that is unnecessary. Okay, and that's for guys who are naturally like big guys, dominant alpha guys. But some of the worst offenders that I found are the recovering, and I'm using recovering in quotations, and I'm using beta males in quotations. So this was like the guy who's reading stuff on the internet of the men's movement. He's like, I'm not going to be the nice guy anymore. But he does it in such an uncalibrated way that instead of saying, well, I'm going to stand up for myself, what actually happens is the guy becomes aggressive, and it's uncalibrated. So you've got, a skinny guy who perhaps wasn't popular growing up, and now he's coming off as aggressive, and it's really uncalibrated. It's just like, instead of being intimidated, people sort of think, what's wrong with that guy? Why is that guy so angry? And it is, the guy's actually better off when he was back being that nice guy, because now he's going to be alienating a lot of people. Okay, so I see that a lot, or I read that a lot in the comments of the men's movement, and that's not a good way to be either. Okay, so any type of aggression is a bad way to sell on influencing people. Number 3 is neediness. Okay, that's another mistake that people make. These are the guys who want. They always want something. All they can see is what they want, and they don't hesitate to ask for it consistently. In fact, they'll ask for it right off the gate. They're value leeches, and instead of influencing people, they repel people. For the first 4 years of RLD, I answered every single email, but I stopped answering emails completely because 90% of the emails that I got, 10% of you guys are terrific and really good stuff, but 90% of the emails I was getting were people who were just, writing me these essays, with urgent in the title. I need help with this girl. You have to read this right now. And just an essay with like 100 questions in it, just asking value, right? For me, if I want something from someone that I'm reading, I will just ask them, how much is your hourly rate, right? I'm gonna give that value and then see if the guy is going to offer me the value back in return. So, and maybe these aren't bad guys, they just don't know. They don't know that neediness actually repels people, okay? You want to be adding value, not taking value. If you are in a social situation and your first instinct is to take value, you're really fucking up. You're really like, you've repelled so many people and you don't even realize it, okay? It's a very important thing to be aware of, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, but that's just a reality of it, Okay, so that's number 3. And number 4, the mistake is just lack of interest. So the guys with the lack of interest are aware of how social interactions work. They just don't care enough to put in the effort. They'll just show up, be low energy. They understand what's going on in the interaction. There's just not enough payoff for them to put in the effort. And that is not a bad thing per se. It's just neutral. So they're not going to lose friends or repel people, but they're also not going to be able to easily gain friends, and they're also not going to be able to have strong influence over people, okay? And that's not the worst way to be, but if you want to be living at an optimized higher level and be able to make a lot of friends and be able to influence a lot of people, then that's not your best bet. So doing any of those 4 things on a consistent basis is not a good way to be. And for 3 of those things, you are destroying your social and your business prospects. And you might have been doing that for like the last 20 years. If you're wondering why things maybe haven't been going the way that you wanted to, take a look and examine your social interactions and see if you fit any of those bills, okay? Are you aggressive? Are you overly needy? Are you not focusing and not being aware of social interactions? Are you sitting there just being neutral when you could be adding value and influencing people, okay? Doing those 4 things is a big problem, especially if you're dealing with high value people. All right. If you're dealing with someone who's got a lot of things going on, or a big client with a lot of money, they don't have time for like just one of those mistakes, right? One time you argue with the guy, if I was going to argue with my client back when I was a salesman, one time, that could have been it, right? That could have been the end of a guy who's giving me $10,000 a month. Right? From one argument, he would go to my competitor because he can, because he has that much value, right? Same thing with a guy who's got a lot going on. Like, in my business, one of the biggest guys is Tim Ferriss. If Tim Ferriss was sitting down talking to me, I would treat him like absolute gold, right? Because that guy has so much value to me that could be offered to me. I would make sure not to make any mistake. I would be making that guy feel great. Everything, right? Because one mistake, a million people are asking for that dude's time. A million bloggers or personal development guys want to talk to Tim Ferriss, right? One mistake, he could just be like, all right, I'm done with this, okay? That's the reality of it, all right? Not only that, it's just fucking low consciousness living, right? I like to be around happy people, happy, positive interactions, and this is the smart way to live. So again, like I keep telling you guys, life is sales. You're always selling, whether you believe it or not. And there's nothing beta about being nice and charming and complimenting people, okay? The most quote-unquote alpha guys I met were also the best salesmen, and they're hands down the most charming people you meet. They can make you feel like $1 million if they want to, just by turning it on like that, right? And they don't get their way by fucking, bullying and all these other negative things. It's by exactly what Dale Carnegie tells you to do, okay? Exactly what he tells you to do. So, without further ado, like the old saying goes, you catch more flies with honey, all right? And like your mom used to tell you, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So, unless someone is fucking with you, that's when you drop the hammer. But at that point, it's beyond winning friends and influencing people. That's like a last resort. Like someone's fucking with you, okay, you can drop the hammer on them, but then that interaction is going to be over, and you're going to ruin whatever chance you have as a friendship. So make sure if you're dropping the hammer on someone, it's like, okay, this is done. They've caused me pain, so I'm going to get back at them, but it's not while you're still trying to build a relationship, okay? Because it just doesn't work that way. So, if you don't believe what I'm saying, go try and earn a living in sales. Please do that. Please do that, where literally the wrong word, one wrong sentence, and you lose a client, and then that means you miss your target, and you're 2 to 3 months away from getting fired at any given time. So literally one wrong sentence means you might miss your target for that month, which means you miss your quarter, which means you're fired, right? It's that black and white. But most people don't know that because they've never had anything riding on their social interaction, or at least they didn't realize there was something riding on it, right? When there's actual money and your job is riding on, you see how fucking serious this stuff is. And like, every time you put out something negative, that something negative comes back to you. Even if it's a small thing, and even if you don't see the guy's reaction right away, he's still picking up on that. And every time you put out something positive is coming back to you. Okay? It's really that simple. All right? So, with that said, that's the case for it. Now I'm going to give you the rules of Mr. Dale Carnegie in his How to Win Friends and Influence People. So the first section of the book is divided into fundamental techniques in handling people. And the beautiful thing about this book is I can take his points word for word, and not one of them is wrong. The majority of books, I'll take 1 or 2 points away. Every single thing in this book is right, and I'm going to use his bullet points word for word because they're so fucking good. Okay? Read this book once, twice, read it every month, read it as many times as you have to until you do everything that he says, because it's that good. So, fundamental techniques in handling people. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. No one likes to be criticized. Okay, let me say that again. No one likes to be criticized at all, ever. No one likes to admit that when they're wrong. I don't care if you're framing it as constructive criticism. No one likes it. Doesn't matter who they are. Okay, if he's smart or he's a good salesman, like if some reporter says something to Obama, he'll say, well, thank you for, generating this discussion. I'd be happy to answer that. But that's just game. Okay, what he's really thinking is shut the fuck up. I'm going to shut this guy up, right? That's what he's thinking, okay? For all you guys who like to play devil's advocate, or let me just say some constructive criticism, almost always you're coming from a place of aggression, and almost always it doesn't want to be heard. The only time people want to hear it is if they ask your opinion and it's like, it's not something that's too personally sensitive. What do you think about this sales page versus this one? Which one do you like more? Oh, okay, I like B. And then the guy's gonna be like, thank you for your opinion. But unprompted, unasked for criticism, man, that's probably the worst thing you can do in a social situation, right? Number 2, give honest and sincere appreciation. So if you're working on a project with someone or they're helping you with something, just tell them, you're doing a great job. Thank you for all your hard work. It's such a simple thing. It's such an easy thing, but it's something that everybody loves to hear. Everyone loves to hear that they're valued for what they're doing, okay? Number 3, arouse in the person an eager want. So if you want someone to work with you or work for you, understand what they want and make their wants your wants. So you understand what motivates that guy, and then you're able to arouse that in him, right? I'm not talking about like bullshit dream selling, but I'm talking about, okay, how do I get his wants aligned with mine? So you figure out what he wants, and then you're able to give that to him. Okay, like if you're just starting out a business, you're saying you can pay him X amount. 3 months from now, you're gonna be able to pay him a bit more if money's his main focus, right? Or you give him a percentage of this, and as it continues to grow, he's gonna increase the percentage. And if he stays loyal, then there's gonna be more opportunity for him to move up as the company continues to grow if he believes in it, right? Again, you got to be ethical in the way that you do that, but it's about seeing their perspective instead of seeing yours. It's like whenever you're trying to influence someone, instead of thinking, what do I want? Think about what does he want first, okay? And how am I going to give it to him? And then when I give it to him, then I can get what I want, right? There's a great book or a great title called Leaders Eat Last, right? So you eat after you've given the people what they want, right? That's how you get what you want. So that's section 1. Section 2 is 6 ways to make people like you. Number 1, he says, is become genuinely interested in other people. I can sit down with pretty much anyone and be interested in what they're saying, even if they're not particularly intelligent or interesting, because I'm observing them. I'm building a bigger database in my head of people. I'm seeing what motivates them, and I can learn something from everybody, whether they want me to learn it or not. A lot of the time that I'll learn something that they wouldn't want me to learn. But just by observing them, I can make any conversation interesting, by asking questions and seeing what they want. And people love to see that you've taken an interest in them, because most people don't do that. Most people just sit down and they start talking about what's going on in their lives, their problems, or, all this shit that the other person doesn't care about, right? Very few people sit down and start asking like pointed questions about you, giving you focused eye contact, asking engaged questions on top of that. If you hear about like the charisma of Bill Clinton, okay, or George Clooney, you can read about this. They say that he makes you feel like you're the only person in the room. So this super high value, super important guy, he's shaking hands with everyone. Then he comes to you and he looks you right in the eyes, shakes your hand, asks you a couple questions about yourself, doesn't look around the room, doesn't think about anyone else. And all of a sudden, all that value of the former president is just turned on you, right? And you're thinking, wow, this guy really is listening to what I'm saying. That's such a powerful thing. Number 2, 6 ways to make people like you is to smile. Happiness contagious. Everyone wants to be happy. That one's a no-brainer. Number 3, remember the person's name and use the person's name often. You can hear every good salesman do this, right? I used to do this on every conversation. Hey, John, how are you? John, I wanted to ask you a question about. It just shows that you're valuing them and that you're taking an interest, and people love to hear their own name. That's just as far as it goes. Number 4, be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. This kind of adds to point number 1. Engage questions, active listening, eye contact. The way to make people feel comfortable is to get them talking about themselves, not listening to you. Okay, if you're on a date with a girl and you're talking the whole time, that girl's not going to be comfortable, and it's not going to be a good date. You want a date where by the end of the date she's talking at least 70% of the time, because now she's going to open up and feel comfortable about you. Okay. Number 5, talk in terms of the other person's interest. If you want to charm someone, talk about what they want. Right. When I was in sales, there was never a phone conversation where I talked about myself or my personal life. They weren't interested. It was, me talking about my client going camping that weekend, or going to the Leafs game, or they're taking their kids to ballet, or how their business was going. They didn't give a fuck about me. They liked talking and hearing their own voice. And I would encourage that, right? Because I want them to like me, and I want them to continue to being one of my clients and feel like they're being not just well serviced, but that there's a personal relationship there. And number 6 is make the person feel important and do it sincerely. So everyone wants to feel important. Again, like I keep saying, everyone wants to feel good. So when you make that person feel important, especially if you're a high value guy, then they're going to be like, I like this guy. They might have hated you before, right? Have you ever seen like the popular guy in high school? Maybe some guy would be talking shit about him, or you would have thought, man, that guy's such a dick. And then he goes over and be nice and is nice to you, or is nice to that guy. And then all of a sudden that guy becomes his biggest fan because he just was nice to that guy, made him feel important. And it's something that is so easy, it's free, but most people don't do it. So that's section 2. Section 3 is 12 ways to win people over to your way of thinking. Okay, the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. 100% agree. If you want to see more on that, watch my video on how to win an argument. I'll give you a hint. It's by not arguing in the first place. Number 2 is show respect for the other person's opinion. Never say you're wrong. If I'm saying you're wrong, it's because that guy has broken rapport with me too many times, and now I'm going in for the attack. Like, okay, the gloves are off. I'm attacking this guy, but that rarely happens. Usually, if you're hanging out with cool people, you never have to say you're wrong, and you never do because, again, you're breaking rapport. That's what I tell you guys all the time. Don't break rapport. Don't break rapport. Don't break rapport. It's the worst social sin that you can do. Okay. If you're wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. This is something that I'm really good at. Believe it or not, you guys might think I have a big ego and I'm the kind of guy who would never admit I'm wrong. It's actually the opposite, because when on the occasions that I am wrong, I realize I'm wrong. I feel guilty about it, and I apologize immediately. And I say what I did was wrong. I should have done that to you. I'm sorry. Just quickly, like a Band-Aid, on and off. And it's something you should be able to do. And I feel like if you're high value and a worthy person, then an apology is not a weakness, it's a strength. It's saying I was wrong. Okay. When you feel confident in yourself, you can say, well, I was wrong. I'm sorry, I won't do that again. And that's the kind of apology I want from other people as well. Okay. When you're able to apologize that way, you're also able to forgive quickly. being able to apologize quickly and being able to forgive when you get a sincere apology are important things. So that's number 3. Number 4 is begin in a friendly way. If you start any interaction in a friendly way, you're always going to get better results than if you start neutral, if you start rude. That's just a no-brainer. Start with questions the other person will answer yes to. Okay, so this applies probably more than sales. You don't have to do this with your friends, but in sales, this is what we call a yes ladder. So you're like, well, wouldn't you like to make more money, John? Okay, well, and if you could make an extra $10,000 a month, would you be interested in that? He's going to say, yeah, So you're getting yes ladder, you're getting compliance. The more compliance you have, the more momentum you have in that social interaction. Number 6, let the other person do a great deal of the talking. He's applying this to sales, but I'm applying that to anything else. Like I said, on a date, you want the girl to do most of the talking. You want to ask her enough questions that she's doing most of the talking, okay? Which is contradictory to the vast majority of the pickup artist stuff out there. You don't have to run flashy type of crazy game. You're on the date making that girl feel comfortable, okay? And the way she feels comfortable is by opening up to you and then you listening to what she's saying and asking engaged questions back, okay? Number 7, this is a great one that I didn't start doing until a couple years ago. Let the other person feel the idea is his or hers. So if you're working on a project together or whatever, and you're brainstorming on an idea and you bring it up at a meeting or whatever, say John had a great idea about this and that guy's gonna love you forever. He's gonna love you. Or you're working with one of your employees and you're talking about something and then you say, you know what, man, that's a great idea. Let's move forward with John's idea, right? And every time you bring it up, it's John's idea. That guy's gonna love you forever, okay? Because it's such a valuation of what he's doing. Number 8, try honestly to see things from other people's point of view. This only makes sense. If you want to influence someone, you have to know what they're thinking. If you're just trying to railroad your view over them, then you're doing a shit job of influencing, that's for sure. Number 9, be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. That relates to number 8. Number 10, appeal to the nobler motives. So everyone likes to be glorious in their own eyes. So like if you're doing something together, if you're trying to build something big together, you don't want to sell the dream, but you want to be able to show that there's a difference being made. Like I was talking to Matt who does my books and he's going to do my video courses for me. And I just said I probably made 15% more because you did all the covers for me. That's how good your artwork was. And I get compliments on it all the time. And from the thousands of books or whatever that I've sold, all those books changed somebody's lives if the guy implemented that. And you're a part of that because you co-created that. And he just sort of stood there for a second. He's like, wow, I never thought about that. I was like, yeah, that karma is going to come back to you too because you were involved in the creation of that. And that's a fact. And I didn't have to say that, but we were just talking about it and it came to me and immediately, he was happy about it because he hadn't even thought that. It was just a project that he did. He made the money and then, probably moved on to the next one. But when you're able to do that, it just adds a whole dimension to your influence. Okay. Number 11, dramatize your ideas. Again, if you're really bringing someone on board for something big, you want to be able to give them a vision of what's going on. Not dream selling, okay? Dream selling like where you're fucking lying and it's just a sandcastle, but like, here's how I think it's going to look and here's why I think it's going to be great for you to be a part of that and really like flesh out the idea in like a big picture, okay? That's really a powerful thing to do. And number 12 is throw down a challenge. This is the thing that motivates people is the game or the challenge to prove their worth. Something me and my friends have been doing. We've been doing these accountability challenges with money behind it. And it's a good way to keep people accountable. So lastly is be a leader, how to change people without giving offense or arousing resentment. And a lot of this stuff has been covered a little bit. So number 1 is begin with praise and honest appreciation. Number 2 is call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. Again, not breaking rapport. Number 3, talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. This is a great thing to do. It's part of what I call the shit sandwich, which is like, a compliment, then the problem, then another compliment. So you've got the shit in the middle. And in those compliments, you can say like, I don't always do this right, or I know that there's a lot of work to be done and you're doing a great job, but we have a little problem here. And if you could just clear that up, that would be awesome, because I know that I love working with you and I know that you've been doing so much great work. I'd love to have, this back to where we were before. That type of a way to handle a problem is the best way to handle it. Ask questions instead of giving direct orders is awesome. I never ask a girl like, meet me here. I'll say, yeah, why don't you meet me here at 9 p.m. on Monday? That sound good? So it's basically like, it kind of is an order, but it's also phrased in the way that it's a question and it doesn't sound demanding. Okay. So if you're talking with your team, it's like, hey guys, why don't we do this for next Monday? Why don't we get that together? All right. John, can you handle that? Yeah, sure. Will, I can handle that. Instead of, all right, John, get that done for Monday. It's just a softer, nicer way of doing it. Number 5, let the other person save face. Anytime that you can, the last thing that you want to do is embarrass a guy in public. I know that I would never forget it. When I used to work a job, I've had managers that embarrassed me in public in my sales job, and 10 years later, I still remember it. I still remember exactly what happened, right? And truth be told, if I could have got revenge on them, I would have. That's how much people hate being embarrassed in public. So anytime you can let the other person save face is a good idea. You just have to think, well, what does it cost me to let this person save face? Almost always it's nothing, right? You've already talked to them in private about handling the thing. You've done it in the shit sandwich way, compliment, shit, compliment. You don't need to embarrass them any further than that, okay? Praise every improvement. Everything's always about like positive rewards. Again, a lot of this is focused on if you have your own business, but it applies to social situations too. Just everything positive, man. Everything that your man's doing that's better and that's moving forward is just praise, right? Because wouldn't you want him to talk to you the same way? So you give him the treatment that you would want, right? Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. This is a great way to introduce someone, especially if you're talking to a girl. This is my man Ryan. He's a budding real estate mogul. He's got all this stuff going on. You big him up, man. You make him look good. Everyone around you, right? You make them look good. And by doing that, you make yourself look good too. By making your crew look good, you make yourself look good because you're hanging around all these other winners. Okay. Use encouragement, make the fault seem easy to correct. Again, that's more about positive reinforcement, giving positivity, spread that love. Super important. And lastly, make the person happy about doing what you suggest. So, when you are able to influence someone and you understand what they want, you're able to frame it in a way that it appeals to their wants, right? You're able to frame it in a way that they can actually be happy with you and with what you want, because you've already aligned their reality with yours, okay? And if you're working with someone on a project, or you're working with someone in a business, or even if you're just doing some stuff with your friends, you want people to be happy to be working with you, right? It only makes sense. Just not only will they work harder and work better, but it just creates a more positive atmosphere, all right? So that's the book. Again, you can check all the notes over on revolutionarylifestyledesign.com. I'll have all the bullet points for you there. But I mean, if some of this stuff is new to you, just go buy the book. Go buy the Kindle on Amazon, which you can buy for really cheap. How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's in my top 5, if not top 3. It is an absolute must read. It's something you should read more than once. And that's it, man. I hope you found it useful. As always, check me out, revolutionarylifestyledesign.com, iTunes, Facebook, SoundCloud, in the links below on YouTube. And I wish you all the best in your personal development journey.